G'day everyone, before we begin I just wanted to take a few seconds out of this video to thank everyone so much for 2,000 subscribers. It's just really ridiculous to me that more than 2,000 of you absolute legends liked my content enough to subscribe, and I really didn't expect this much support so early on. It really means the world to me, and I hope I can keep popping out these videos for you guys. Anyway, with that being said, let's dive into this run. Stephen Stone. One good looking rooster he is, but that's not why we're here. We're here to see if we can beat Pokemon Emerald with Stephen's team only. The rules for this challenge will be that I cannot use items during battle, but held items are fine. I must play on a set battle style. The level restriction is the next gym leader's best Pokemon or the final Elite Four member's ace, and an extra one that I added is if I black out, I will lose the challenge. So this won't be a hardcore Nuzlocke because I really do want to showcase all of Stephen's team. And if I lose someone early on, then it's not really a Stephen run anymore, especially since his team only has 6 members. Now one look at Stephen's team and you might be asking, you can only get one of the fossil Pokemons before the postgame. And fair dinkum, you're spot on, but I got you covered. How? Well, you'll see in a tick. Anyway, enough of me rambling on, let's get into the challenge. We start out by getting shoved in the back of a truck and arrive here at our new home here in Littleroot, where we raid a random person's house and meet this fairy who's getting chased by a pup. So naturally we had to pick up our perfectly normal starter Beldum to scare off this little fella. We then named Beldum Hugh, with no particular reference whatsoever. We also take care of May, and afterwards I activated my special trap card, which makes the encounter rate of Lily 100%. We then found one, caught it, thank you, and named it Smile. Next we had to take care of little baby Wallace and help him catch a Pokemon before heading off to Rustboro City. But not before collecting the TM for Bullet Seed and teaching it to Smile. And with that we've basically already won the first badge. We also get the TM for Rock Tomb, which I decided to teach to Smile. Anyways, moving on. We have a battle against May, but this was just a grind because all her Torkoal really used was Curse, and there were no real attacking moves. Yeah, this battle ain't one for the highlight reel, that's for sure. We then make our way over to Doofit Town for the next gym, and once there we head to Granite Cave to get our next encounter, Aron. Now, as for the name, already used that as well. Ah yes, perfect. So we named our Aron Richo. We also deliver a letter to Stephen, and he was nice enough to give us the TM for Steelwing, something we can teach Skarmory later before it learns it. Time for the second gym, and this one might not be as scary as it initially seems. What I mean by this is if we can take out Marchop, which to be honest won't be easy, but with Meditite only knowing Focus Punch, a move that requires the user to not be hit on the same turn to land, it's basically useless.
Why you bully me?
There's also Makuhita to worry about, and to be honest I've got no idea how to approach the big fella. But you know what? Improvisation goes a long way. So I decided to start off the battle with Richo to see if we can two-shot with Metal Claw. Unfortunately it does less than half, so from here I changed my game plan to just lower Marchop's health down to as low as possible. And we do manage to leave Marchop in red before Richo goes down. So I sent in Smile and he finishes off the job with Acid. Brawly then sends out his Meditite, but all it used here was Focus Punch and never really posed any threats, which allowed Smiles to just really have a stroll in the park. Last here is Makuhita, and even after the bulk up, Bullet Seed does an okay amount of damage. We then get hit by a big Vital Throw as Bullet Seed brings Makuhita down to below half, but the Citrus Berry takes him back up to full health basically. Even with that, we get a Ripper Roll on the Bullet Seed on the next turn, but it wasn't enough to stop Smile from being taken out. Hugh now has to take us to the Promised Land, but Takedown doesn't KO as Reversal leaves Hugh with only 5 HP, but that was enough for us to earn our second gym badge, with only 4 HP left over after the recoil. Talk about a close shave, that was a heart stopper. Before heading over to Slateport, we evolve Hugh into Metang, and now it's time for the infamous Route 110 battle. But to be honest, I'm pretty concerned about this year battle. My suspicions turned out to be true when... Psych! Yeah, nah, this battle was pretty easy. We took out Lombre with Takedown and Confusion, and Slugma, despite being a Fire type, followed suit. Last is Marsh Stomp, but Smile handled it with a Bullet Seed. So everyone knows that Watson is a toughie, but with our lineup, I reckon we have a pretty good chance of pulling this off. The only worries we should have here are obviously Magneton and Manectric. I think that the key here will be Richo with Mudslap, but to be honest, it'll just be mostly down to whether Watson decides to spam Shockwave or not. If he does, we're pretty much no hope. So the dream scenario would be that he uses Thunder Wave and will have a Cherry Berry on hand to cure Paralysis to waste his turn, and hope that Mudslap will do the trick. There's also Manectric to worry about, and with him, the only way will be to stall with Smile through Ingrain and Bullet Seed, because it is a pretty strong special attacker this early on in the game, and can probably two-shot or one-shot most of our team at this stage. Anywho, let's see how we go. So we start off the battle with Hugh and are able to take out both Voltorb and Electrike with about a quarter of our health remaining. Watson then sends out his Magneton, who wastes first turn with Thunder Wave as we have a Cherry Berry. We then go for Confusion, which did bugger all but does confuse Magneton. I couldn't believe me luck, so I quickly switched that into Richo, but forgot that Magneton has the ability Magnet Pull.
Bruh, look at this dude.
So now we just have to sit there until Magneton takes us out. But we do get pretty lucky with the Confusion and Hugh does a massive chunk on Magneton's health, but we are taken down with a Shockwave. I then sent in Richo, and once again Watson wastes another turn with Thunder Wave, as Mudslap seemed to do just under half. Shockwave then takes us down to 17 HP, and with Mudslap barely leaving Magneton afloat, Richo kicks it on the next turn. Now we're only left with Smile, but he manages to dodge the Supersonic and take out Magneton, leaving old mate Watson with only Manectric. Watson starts out with Howl, and I decided to set up Ingrain to drag this battle on for as long as possible. Now this battle went on forever, so I won't be able to cover it all, but after the setups both sides were just doing barely any damage. It was extremely close towards the end, with Quick Attack leaving Smile with only 5 HP left, but we managed to push through the Paralysis and finish off Manectric with Bullet Seed. Gee whiz, that was a tough one to crack, but eventually we got there. We can now head over to Route 113 to catch our next team member, and named it Beans. If you know, you know. We then see Team Magma getting up to their shenanigans, and Archie tells us they're dangerous. Wonder who else is. Anyway, on the way to the next gym, we meet this bloke who's missing his glasses. You lovely people mind telling him where it is, because I can't spot him. Whilst everyone helps out our friend over here, I quickly went over to Mount Chimney and dealt with big ol' Maxie pretty easily. Now it's time to take on Flannery. So, with our team's obvious weakness to ground and fire, this would seem like the ultimate nightmare. But I did manage to figure out a ripper plan to win this battle. Can you guess what it is? Well, you're spot on. It's stalling. Yep, before this battle, I decided to teach Smiles over here Double Team, and he also learnt Confuse Ray. So, let the stalling begin. The battle started off, yeah, and I'm not going to commentate through all of this. Cue the battle montage. Yeah, I ran that footage at like 40 times speed. That battle was really never in doubt, but it did took me 20 odd years. We then picked up a pair of Go-Goat goggles, and with this we can head over to the desert on Route 111 to catch Big Boy Baltoy, and named him Brick. We can also head over to the Mirage Tower next door, where I snagged myself a claw fossil, and headed back to Rustboro, so that we can restore the fossil, which turned out to be an Anorith named Pincho. Next up we got Norman, and I start off with Richo. We get hit by a Teeter Dance first up, but manage to land an Iron Tail for close to a one-hit. Norman then heals up, but Richo snaps out of Confusion to land a Headbutt for just under half, and we then get hit by Psybeam only to be confused again, but a final Iron Tail takes out Spinder. Norman then sends out his Slacking, so I decided to switch into Hugh. The plan for Slacking here was to use Scary Face on turns that Norman would go for counter, and attack on the turns that this lazy buffoon slacks off. Anyway, since the AI has no idea what they're doing, we just rinse and repeat this process, and hope to God that Slacking over here doesn't use Facade. He only used it twice, and eventually we did take out Slacking. Next up is Vigoroth, though 2 Metal Claws here take him out pretty easily, and lastly is Linoon, but a Belly Drum all but sealed its fate, and with that we earned our 5th gym badge. Afterwards we headed over to the abandoned ship, which is clearly not abandoned, and pick up the TM for Ice Beam to teach to Brick. On the way to the next gym, we finally evolved Richo into a Lairon, helped some weird little scientists from Team Aqua, and had a battle against May. Since she doesn't even know that Mudshot does no damage against flying types, this battle turned out to be pretty easy. We then meet old mate Stevo again, and he chucks us the Devoscope, allowing us to access the next gym. Speaking of the next gym, it's Winona, and the only real problem I see here is her Tropius. Not mine, no, okay. It's Altaria with its Earthquake and Dragon Dance. But with its 4 times weakness to Ice, hopefully Ice Beam and Brick can bail us out here. The rest of Winona's team should be relatively simple though. Aside from that Skarmory. So we start off the battle with Beans, and he's able to take care of both Swablu and Tropius fairly easily. But I had a little trouble with Pelipper, so I decided to switch into Hugh and take it out with Takedown. Next out is Altaria, and in hindsight, I probably should have predicted the Earthquake and switched that into Bricks because it has Levitate. Anyways, I didn't, and Hugh bites the dust. We then send in Bricks, and Winona goes for a Dragon Dance, whilst Ice Beam manages to do about a half. On the next turn, Winona once again strangely sets up another Dragon Dance, and with that Altaria goes down. Last out is Skarmory, and it turned out to be a much tougher opponent than Altaria ever was. With its limited weaknesses and sand attack spam, it was a huge pain. We do eventually manage to whittle it down and take it out, earning us our 6th gym badge. Over at Lily Cove, we have another battle against poor old May, and then headed to Route 123 to pick up ourselves the team for Giga Drain and taught it to Smiles. We then make our way to Mount Pi and see Archie pinching some stuff, and before battling Maxi, Bricks evolves into his final form, Bricklayer. Now Maxi turned on us after his precious little Groudon ran away, but he turned out to be pretty easy. We take out both his Modiana and Camerupt with Beans, and last out is Crobat. I decide to go for Steel Wing here, but miss as Crobat hits a wing attack. He then crits as Steel Wing does just over half, and with that I decided to switch into Hugh, who tanks a bite, and 2 more confusions finish the job. Now before we move on to Tate and Liza, brace yourselves for 3 evolutions. First we got Smile into Piranha Plant, Pincho evolves into, well, a bigger version of Pincho, and Richo evolves into a full-grown Aussie Bogan. Now the gimmick here with Tate and Liza are that they do double battles, and even then, if we take out Claydol, it should be smooth sailings from then on, because with no threat of ground or rock moves, their team is basically helpless against the makeup of our team, with it mostly being steel and rock. So I decided to start out the battle with Brick and Smile, and we used Giga Drain and Ice Beam on the Claydol. But that wasn't enough to KO, as Claydol uses Earthquake, and Zartoon uses Calm Mind. Tate and Liza then heal up on the next turn, so I decided to use Ice Beam on Claydol, and Confuse Ray on the sneaky little Zartu back there as it manages to set up more Calm Minds. Zartu then breaks through the confusion for another Calm Mind, but we do manage to finally take care of Claydol. Next out is Solrock, but Smile gets demolished by a buffed Psychic, and so I went into Richo. Zartu then lands Confuse Ray on Brick, who hits itself in confusion, and Flamethrower brings us to about 2/3 as a single Iron Tail takes out Solrock. Next in is Lunatone, and Richo, with his 60 base special defense, manages to survive a Psychic, as Brick takes Zartu down to yellow with Ice Beam. Lunatone then sets up a light screen, but that's all it did because Richo takes it out with an Iron Tail, though he also goes down shortly after. I then sent in Hugh, but with +3 special defense and light screen, we did nothing. Tate and Liza didn't account for our physical attacks though, and Takedown takes down Zartu. Okay, that was terrible. But anyways, we got our 7th gym badge, and that's all that matters. But then something amazing happened. We meet this little cutie commanding his troops. I mean, that's too adorable. Anyways, what I meant to say was that now we're teaming up with the Steven bloke, and we seem to have a very similar team. This battle was a walkover though, and you know what? I'm starting to like this Steven bloke. He then invites us over to his joint where he's nice enough to give us the HM for dive, and even treats us to dinner. Oh, I forgot. Much better. Over at the Aqua Hideout, we meet Archie, but just like Maxi, he goes down without putting up much of a fight. He's even easier than Maxi if I'm to be honest, because he possesses a Sharpedo instead of a Camerupt. He then goes on a long ramble about whatever he rambled on about, and his little Kyogre also decides to bugger off, and Archie realises that he may have destroyed the whole world. He then has a monologue about how he didn't mean all this, blah blah blah, heard it all before, and once we arrive at Sootopolis, we get
an epic cutscene.
And see that Kyogre and Groudon are having a little battle that may or may not destroy all of Hoenn. So basically it's now up to us to go save the world. To do that, we gotta head over to Sky Pillar and wake up this dude. Then upon returning to Sootopolis, we have another
Epic cutscene.
And after all that, we, a 10-year-old, saved the world.
Okay.
Oh, and before I forget, we also evolved Hugh into a Metagross before the final gym. Time for the last gym leader, and if you hadn't already guessed, the key here will be Richo. I've already used this joke already, haven't I? Well, looks like I'm out of jokes, so let's get back to the bio. What we're probably going to do here is set up double teams and Amnesia on the Love Disc, and with Giga Drain now, we'll probably be able to stay in the battle for a long time, which will hopefully be long enough for us to stall out Kingdra with Confuse Ray. We also have good old Beans back there waiting with Swift in case we need it to attack Kingdra, after it inevitably spams Double Team. So I start out the battle here with Beans and set up 3 spikes. Eventually. I then sent out our Lord and Saviour and went to town with Amnesia, though this little cheeky bugger gave us more trouble than I'd initially thought with its Sweet Kiss, but eventually take it out with Giga Drain. Next out is Celio, but it's taken down with 1 hit and we're basically full health. Kingdra comes in and starts spamming double teams, and our Giga Drain really didn't do all that much. And since I wanted to save the last power point for Wish Cash, I just kept using double team and Confuse Ray to chip away at Kingdra's health. Eventually, I just ran out of things to do, so I sent in Beans as Kingdra hits itself. We then get hit by Water Pulse, which brings us down to red, whilst Swift did bugger all. So I decided to switch again, this time in a Hugh, who tanks a Water Pulse and pulls through all the double teams to land a finishing Psychic. One then sends out Wish Cash, so here I switch into Smile and manages to eat up the Earthquake and deliver a one-shot Giga Drain. Last out is Crawdont, and with no Giga Drains left, we switched back into Hugh as Juan goes for Taunt. Takedown then brings Crawdont down to red, whilst Crabhammer didn't do all that much. Juan then heals on the next turn, but a critical takedown earns us the final gym badge. Time to make our way to the Pokemon League, but before that, we gotta take care of old mate Wally. Wait, do we really have to go through this battle? Righto! So we melted his Altaria with Ice Beam, Roselia gets roasted with Psybeam, Delcatty gets cooked by 2 Earthquakes, and Magneton gets baked with another Earthquake. But Gardevoir was a good bit tougher, but it was just because of the double team spam. This battle took a bit longer than I thought, but we eventually knock it out. So, here we are, this is the team before the Elite Four, and I'll be honest, if we don't make it through I'll be pretty disappointed because this team is damn solid. We've got really good coverage Pokemon and coverage moves in general to cover our weaknesses. So hopefully we don't encounter too much trouble, but I'm obviously terrible at this game, so I'll find some way for me to bugger up. Enough of me blabbing nonsense, let's get on to the Pokemon League. First up is Elite Four Sydney, and be honest with me here, has anyone ever had trouble with this bloke? No? I didn't think so, because we didn't here either. We take out Mightyena in 2 Brick Breaks, and he sends out his Crawdont. I decided to switch into Smile, who gets hit by a critical Surf for about over half, but a single Giga Drain on the next turn is enough to take it out. Shiftry is next, so we went into Beans, but let me tell you that this battle was annoying. We could not hit a fly to save our lives because of the double team spam, though as a consolation we do hit a critical Swift. Sydney then goes for Swagger, and not only do we hit ourselves, but also get hit by a couple of extra sensories. Beans does eventually come through and snaps out of Confusion to finish off Shiftry. Next in is Sydney's Absol, and I forgot that he had Rock Slide and switched into Pincho, who also nearly gets taken out. This forced me to switch into Richo to finish off the job. Last out is Cactus, and after we finally get through the 2 misses of Iron Tail, we finish off Sydney with a single hit. Next up is Phoebe, and everyone knows that the first Dusclops of hers is here for the sole purpose of draining out our power points. But it's okay, because that's really the only concern we have with her team. Aside from her last Dusclops, we shouldn't really have too much trouble. I mean, it only has Earthquake, Ice Beam, Okay, maybe she will give us a bit of trouble with that Dusclops. But our team is pretty strong defensively, so I think we should be fine. So we begin with Beans as Phoebe starts off with Protect. We then hit a Steel Wing on the next turn for about a third as Dusclops sets up a curse which brings it into red. Phoebe then heals on the next turn as another Steel Wing lands. Once again Phoebe goes for Protect, so I set up Spikes. And before we get taken out by Curse, I decide to switch into Richo as Dusclops uses Protect. On the next turn Dusclops uses Protect, and on the next turn Dusclops uses Protect. But it failed this time. And we end this piece of Mudbray dung with Irontail. Next out is the second Dusclops, so I switch into All Reliable Pincho, who tanks an Earthquake. Metal Claw then does bugger all, but the same could be said about Rock Slide. We then exchanged the same attacks again, but it wasn't going to work, so I went for Ancient Power, which I should have used first, as Rock Slide brings Pincho down to red. But another hit on the next turn takes out Dusclops. Next is the first Bayonet. Actually, seriously, are there no other ghost types in this gen? Okay, there are no other ghost types. Anyway, we switch into Richo here and take out Bayonet with 2 digs as it just sat there and used Grudge. Second Bayonet is up and we take it out in the same way. Is what I'd like to say, but it lives on like 2 HP as we get hit by a Thunderbolt and even get paralysed. So here I switched into Husey as Bayonet goes back up to full health again, but a single Meteor Mash takes it out. Last is Sableye, but one hit of Meteor Mash also takes it out and ends the battle. Time for Glacier, so I decided to start off with Pincho, and it took us 2 Brick Breaks to take out Celio, which allowed it to set up a Hail. Next out is this giant Sea Lion, and Surf does a truck ton, whilst our Ancient Power does just over half. I then had to let poor old Pincho go, but it's okay, because I had a Brain Fade, and after years of debating, I finally decided to bring in Richo. But he misses a bloody Irontail and gets nailed by a one-shot Surf. So next I sent out Smile, and Ice Beam does about 3/4, and our Giga Drain doesn't even take out this mammoth. So knowing that Glacier would heal, I went for Amnesia, and now Ice Beam only does about 1/4. With that Amnesia set up, Walrein stays were numbered, because 2 more Giga Drains take it out. Next up is the second Celio, but like the first one, we take it out in 2 hits, as it only managed to set up Hail. With only 2 Glalie left, a quick switch into Hugh, and that was pretty much wraps for the battle. Now Drake's team is tough for most runs, but with our team being mostly Rock and Steel, I reckon we're in a pretty solid position, even with Drake having moves like Earthquake and Flamethrower. Kingdra is also here, and it'll be incredibly annoying as always, though I do think with Smile's moveset, we should be able to take it out. Another key point in this battle will be Bricks, and to be honest, we need Ice Beam to carry here. Ideally we'll be able to take out Altaria, Flygon and Salamence with only Bricks, but things never go right with Pokemon, do they? Anyway, let's see how we go. We start off here with Bricks, but since Ice Beam isn't enough to one-shot, we end up losing about 1/4 of our health by the time that Shelgon goes down. Next out is good old annoying Kingdra, and you guessed it, it was another Stall Fist. If I commentated over this, I guarantee everyone would hit the hay, but the bottom line here is that we do eventually take it out after about 5 months. Next in is Altaria, but before switching into Bricks, I decided to stay in the battle and land a Confuse Ray first, which actually proved to be pretty useful because Altaria hits itself on our switch in. And that pretty much sealed its fate because Ice Beam is enough to take it out. Next in is Flygon, and Crunch only goes for about 1/3, and once again Ice Beam pulls through for a one-shot. Last out is Drake's Salamence, and unfortunately it does take us out with Crunch. So, as you can probably see here, I really didn't have a plan B, and sat there using all 2 of my final brain cells to think of something, and eventually landed on bringing in Richo. Flamethrower, however, actually does more than half, as we missed an Irontail. This leads to Richo going down, and I sent in Pincho. We do get a bit lucky here, as Salamence misses a Rock Slide, and we capitalise with Ancient Power for about 2/3. We then get flinched by Rock Slide on the next turn, but Pincho manages to pull through as he tanks a Rock Slide and lands a final Ancient Power to beat the Elite Four. Finally, it's time for Wallace. There is no doubt that this is probably going to be the toughest battle so far, but with my super ultra technique of spamming Confuse Ray, Amnesia and Double Team, we should be able to win. No, but seriously, I think we lead off with Smile here to build up our store setups, and hopefully we do a decent chunk of damage to Wallace's team, so that we can sweep up the rest. Sounds simple, right? It's obviously not going to be that easy though, especially with Ludicolo knowing Double Team and Leech Seed. But I did teach Beans Toxic in hopes to stop it from sweeping through our entire team. I also gave a couple of our Pokemon Pecha Berries in the case that we do get poisoned. Anyway, let's get this show on the road. So, like I said, we spend the whole Wailord battle setting up our trap cards, and after we take out Wailord, Wallace sends in his Milotic, who misses its first Ice Beam as we land Confuse Ray. Milotic then hits itself in confusion, and we land a critical Giga Drain that does a decent chunk on Milotic's health. Another Giga Drain then takes Milotic down to red, and Wallace uses a Full Restore. This process then repeated itself, with Milotic missing for the most part, and us landing Giga Drain all the way until we finally take it out. Next out is Tentacruel, but a simple switch into Hue and 2 Psychics take it out, but it does manage to land a Hydro Pump for a little over a third. Out next is Wishcash, and we go for Psychic, which does just under half as Wallace sets up Amnesia. Here I tossed up between Metal Claw and Takedown, but eventually went for Takedown, bringing Wishcash to yellow before Earthquake finishes off Hue. With that, we sent in Smile to get payback with Giga Drain. Time for the dreaded Ludicolo, and right off the bat, and we miss our Confuse Ray. He goes for it again, but we manage to finally land Confuse Ray, and after that I switch right into Beans. But Ludicolo obviously goes through the confusion and sets up another double team. Beans then clutches it and lands a Toxic before Ludicolo just spams the same move again. I then go for Swift, which did next to nothing, as hitting in confusion does not exist for Ludicolo because it lands a Surf. Shortly after, I had no idea what to do, so I had a brain meltdown and went for Fly, which ended up being the end of Beans, unsurprisingly, as we missed the Fly and get taken down with Surf. I then sent in Richo for some reason, but Poison luckily does enough to KO Ludicolo. Gyarados is next and it one-shots Richo with Surf, so I decided to bring in Smile to try and use its Dragon Dance against it, by confusing Gyarados and setting up some Amnesias and double teams. But this just wasn't really working, so we get a free switch into Bricks because Gyarados uses Earthquake. He then goes for another Dragon Dance on the next turn as our Ancient Power did absolutely nothing. And here I just really had no idea what to do. I was stumped. I wasn't sure if we could win this battle now, but Wallace makes an all-time blue and goes for Hyper Beam. So with the extra turn recharge, we sent in Pincho to finish off the battle with Ancient Power. Holy cow, that was far too close for me liking. But you know what? We're champions now, and that's the only thing that matters. But this isn't the end just yet, because we have one more very important thing to do. Yep, you already know it. It's time to visit the battle frontier. Yes? Anyone? No? Alright, no, we actually have an epic mirror match against Steve-O himself. But it isn't actually a mirror match because we needed Waterfall to get here, so I decided to leave Smile behind. But it's okay because we actually managed to land the first blow by taking out his Skarmory. Okay, maybe not, but we send out Brick and he takes out his Skarmory anyways. Same thing. Next in is Aggron, but he uses Solar Beam, and 2 Earthquakes take him out. Steve-O then sends in Cradily, who he managed to freeze first turn, but he defrosts right away and lands Confuse Ray. I wasn't going to deal with the RNG here, so I sent in Husey as Cradily sets up Ingrain. I then decide to set up a Reflect, which was probably a dumb move, but
It is what it is.
we then obviously hit ourselves for like the next 3 straight turns before a single Meteor Mash takes out Cradily. Claydol up next, so I had to reset our Reflect, and Earthquake leaves us with only 40 HP. But Shadow Ball on the next turn nearly takes out Claydol as Husey goes down to an Earthquake. I then sent in Brick again and used Ice Beam to take down Steve-O's Claydol, and also to exert our dominance. Next out is Armaldo, so I decided to bring in our very own Pincho, and managed to land a big Ancient Power for about 3/4 as Water Pulse brings us to half. So with another Ancient Power we take out Armaldo, and last up is Steve-O's Metagross. He proceeded to take out poor Pincho and Richo, so it all came down to whether Earthquake or Shadow Ball would do more. And we fall just bloody short. So with that, we lose to Steve-O. But it's alright because I guarantee that we would have won had we had our full team. And that's a wrap, you lovely people. To be honest, it was real nice to go through Hoenn again, and I 100% could have done much better on pretty much every battle. But you live and you learn, I suppose. Feel free to drop me some comments, feedback, or ideas for the future, as they are very much welcome. Anyways, hope you legends enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one. Cheers.